All right, today I'm going to be talking about the Rit Pack and just reviewing it. Important to going over the Rit Pack periodically. You really should do this at least quarterly, and during the daily checks, truck checks, you should take this pack out, really look it over, get familiar with it, because during emergencies, not the time to learn how to use this. It's a high risk. You want to be prepared to use this pack in a no visibility situation at any given time. There's a number of variables of ways it can be deployed. You should be comfortable in all those ways. 4% of firefighters died in line of duty because of asphyxiation. It's not the leading cause, but it doesn't mean it's not an important cause, and it's why we need to pay attention to this. So here at Westville, we carry the Rit Pack III, the Scott Rit Pack III. It is located in our station on engine 113 behind the driver's side compartment. It's back against the wall. Every truck and engine has one on them, and it's available for the RIT teams to use. Now, reviewing the Scott Rit Pack III, a couple of basics. We'll start at just on the overall construction. On the bottom, you got a nice slide plate, hard plastic slide plate. That's good for moving it around, and it protects the interior contents, and it is really good for helping locate it in no visibility situations. It doesn't take much to figure out. That's the bottom. You have a high vis orange available to see, if you can see it, but we're going to be practicing later on in no visibility conditions. So you should be able to do everything tactilely with this pack. It comes with 8 rings, 3 on each side, 2 on each end. And you can use carabiners to connect and move around the belt to drag it or attach other tools as you see fit. Just like our regular SCBAs, it's a 2-stage system. There's a high pressure side and a low pressure side. Now the easiest way to remember that is these tactile handles here. One is a T and one is a ball. The easy way to remember T, tank, T is your tank. So that's the high pressure side. If you open that up, that's where you'll get the high pressure side. B, you remember balls to the face. Now I don't know what you're thinking. I'm talking like dodgeballs or something, all right? But you remember balls your face, round like your face. You gotta remember these things. You should be automatically know what you're grabbing, where you're going to. Low pressure side is your face mask, everybody breathe their hose. We'll go back through each one of those as we get there, and some points that are important to be aware of. On top of the bag, you have 2 tool bags. We only utilize one. Each of us carry our own ropes with us in our turnout gear, so the larger pocket is empty. The pocket below the digital display, immediately above, next to the digital display, is a smaller tool, which we open that up. It is breakable, and we keep wire cutters in there. We'll start with the outside here, and then we'll work back. When you turn the system on, you have a readable device display right on the pack. When it turns on, it'll light up. We'll go ahead and turn it on now. And it's very similar to what is currently on our SCBAs. You'll have a white light that's always on when there's air into the system. It'll give you a readout that's similar to our readout. We have an hour-long bottle in here at a 4,500 pressure system. You'll have indicator lights that will fully light up, and then they'll change to your status. As air is depleted out, you'll start with 2 green lights, just like our SCBAs. 2 green lights means that you are over 75% full, 75 to 100. If it drops down to 1 green light, you're above 50%, but below 75%. The next stage you'll go down will be a blinking amber light, and that'll show you when you are 25% to 50%. And then you'll have an immediate red blinking light to know that you're below the 25% mark. So we go back on the high pressure side, again, T, tank. Everything coming out of the tank is high pressure. So you grab the T handle if you want to work on the tank side. Inside there, you'll be able to turn your bottle on. You'll also have a audible alarm system that's different than the vibro alert. When this gets below 25, you won't have the vibro alert. You'll get an audible alarm, so you can differentiate what's going low. This side will also have a UAC coupling up to any SCBA after 2002 should be capable of handling this coupler. It's stored inside this plastic tubing here to make it easier to go in and out. Now what we've done here at Westville, and I recommend you guys just check in the mornings, is we've taped on the other side is the case that controls the low pressure hose. We've taped that over because we found that people in low visibility conditions were accidentally grabbing that hose and trying to pull it out. So we try to discourage them from grabbing anything but the UAC if they're in on this high pressure side. The way to remember where that UAC is located is when it's on the same side, you turn the bottle on. You turn the bottle on, and that handle is right there to be grabbed and pulled out. You're on a 5-foot tether with that to make a direct connection to the bottle. And we'll go through that in just a few seconds here. So we'll put that back. Now that's the high pressure side. B for balls to the face. That's your low pressure side that's already gone through the stage. When you open this up, and you should check every morning, that is where you get your dual EBSS system from, in our case with Scott. What the EBSS system does, it gives you two different connections, a female and a male, which would match just like our buddy breathers in the tank. You choose which one you want to use and you make your connection. As soon as you make your connection, just like on our tank, you're sharing this bottle with the other bottle you're connected to. Both are being used at the same time. The UAC, once you plug it into the high pressure side, and I'll go over that in the SCBA, you're going to balance the two tanks. So the contents, it'll take about close to empty on that. It'll take about 1.5 minutes to equalize the two pressures. To make things easy, again, make sure that this is located right under the handle. So when you open it up, it's right there. Inside here, you also have a face mask and a regulator. Both these are specific to the Rit Pack only. They're not to be used in regular operations. The difference with this face mask, it's still like the 3000, but they've removed the vocal boxes and the nose cone. So if you need to put it on a down firefighter, you have full access to look at their face. The regulator is very similar. It doesn't have the vibrator system in there. All these different tools give you different options into connecting to a firefighter. And you need to be proficient in any one of these methods when you're in no visibility conditions. So the best way to do that is review, again, our pack. So our pack, you should all be very familiar with it, but the key thing to remember when you're in, as far as it relates to the RIT, is where things are located. So when you think of the firefighter and you grab the firefighter, the right side is the R side, the right side. That's where you read his air status. One of the first things you should be doing on a down firefighter is assessing his air and what the needs are, so you can make a decision what's the most important thing to do at that moment. You're going to read that on his right side. You can also lift his face mask, make sure there's positive pressure in there. The left side of the down firefighter is the life side. Just remember it that way. Everything coming off the low pressure is the L, the light side. Universal air control fills down here. You have the regulator, then you have on the same left side, you'll also have their buddy breather port, which you'll be able to pull out, and it has again the dual EBSS system. It also, the left side, being the side that is where their regulator is connected to. And you have a connection point in here that has a headlights display connection on it. So you need to be careful when you're doing applications, particularly in low light conditions, to make this connection. So we're going to go through a couple of the connections you might make. Perhaps the easiest one and the less traumatic for a patient that down, if they're not able to do anything and they're intact and the regulators are intact, they just need air. They're low on air. If they're able to do it themselves, you can give them connections, they can make it, or if you're able to do it for themselves, that's fine. You take the buddy breather hose out. You pull off the cap, you pull out the buddy breather from their connection, and then you can choose whichever one you want to make. You put a male to a female, make a connection. Expecting to hear that if you make that connection. Disconnect it, and you could use, again, reverse it. You want to use the male on this one, female on the other one, push it in. You disconnect it, push it together, pull on the collar here, and it comes apart. The other option you can do is making your regulator change. If the firefighter's regulator and face mask are in good condition and you don't want to expose them to the environment, you can disconnect their mask. Now this is a more challenging procedure when you're doing this hands-on, and you're each going to get to do this with it being able to look at it and see everything. But when you separate this, same thing, you push together, pull back the collar, separate it. And then with the mask coming from the firefighter, you have to be careful of this LED heads-up connection. you're going to put it into the female end. And now it's going into the regulator. Couple things to be aware of in addition to this. Couple things to be additional. You do not want to do any of these things without, if the firefighter is alert and oriented, if they're capable of doing it themselves and prefer to do it themselves, to disconnect their regulator from their face, you are cutting their air supply off. So you need to coordinate with them. We're going to make this separation and count it down. 3, 2, 1, make that separation. Before you do, make sure you have this tether in hand and you know where you're going to go with it. Do not lose control of this. Also, remember, this has been done lots of times. People make the disconnection because they're nervous. They separate this hose and then they connect the SCBA to the Rit Pack. That doesn't do anything for the firefighter that is no longer breathing. So be aware of what you're doing. Make sure when you hold on to this, you do not let it go. That's the lifeline for the other firefighter. You make that connection. He's holding his breath right now. Make that connection, push it in, and they can breathe. The advantage of doing that system, as long as they're attached, is now you can, if they're impinged on this valve, you can take that bottle off of them and remove them from the situation. That's the only thing keeping them in. If their face piece is not in good shape, and you think you need to do a face piece switch out, remember that they're in an IDLH environment. You do not want to expose them any longer than have to the smoke conditions. Easiest thing to do is you take the face mask out. Inside there's a regulator that comes with it. And you make the connection ahead of time before you go to the firefighter. You make the connection to the pack before you go to the firefighter. Then you're ready. If you pull over the mask, the straps, which also have large D-rings on the side, I should point that out to make it easier to pull this on. You have that over and ready, so you have his, you can put it right over his face. So in this case, you will take off in a coordinated fashion. They'll be holding the mask here. Either they'll do it if they're alert and oriented to help, another RIT team member can help you. You're going to take off one mask by pulling it backwards, and at the same time, you're going to follow up and push this mask into their place to cover their face. As soon as they start breathing, just like our mask, this will initiate. If they're not, you can also purge some air for them. That'll help blow out some of the smoke. The transfill operation is fairly straightforward. You would go to the high pressure side, pull out the transfill cord, you open it up. Now on the bottles, when you're doing this in the drill, you're going to find out when the cover for this is very difficult to pull up. You got to lift straight up and pull it over. When we'll be supervising you to watch out. The one thing with the transfill you have to be very careful with. This is a very fragile connection. This should be a very easy connection to make. If you find you are forcing it, you're not doing it right. So do not force this. That's where damage can occur. The best way to do it with gloved hands is make sure you get your orientation of where that transfill valve is. You take your UAC, line it up straight if you have to, and then it should just be a simple push. And you'll be able to hear the bottles transfer. And that's it. When you're done, when you want to disconnect it, if you have to put in another bottle to make another connection, push in, lift up on the collar, and you're done. That's it. So covering the basics. Again, check this daily. Be familiar with these connections daily. Know which one you can use in different scenarios and what it gets you, the advantages it gives you. This again, emergency is not the time to find out how to do this. You may be the downed firefighter. You may even have to self-rescue. You might be in a hole where they can lower the Rit Pack to you, and you may have to make these connections yourself. So you should be proficient in doing that. The UAC is probably going to be very difficult to do by yourself without taking your pack off. The other buddy breather should be a relatively easy, instinctive connection for you. So what we're going to do is bring each of you up. We're going to have one-on-one, have you walk through to make sure you're 100% comfortable with the pack. We're going to do hands-on with gloves and without gloves. And once you're proficient at that, we're going to go do the drill that you guys have done before, and I've got attached video we'll watch before we do it, just a review of the practices and what we'll do to touch on all the different things that we may deal with in a RIT scenario. That's it. Thanks.